Hey guys, we are back for a second installment. This one is pretty much just stating the obvious. Black theater actors matter. And it seems to be something that has been an ever going fight. And now, more than anything, seems to be the time that we have a chance to make real, actual change. So today I'm really excited because we have brave soldiers who are coming forward saying, this is my story. These are the things that we normally would have to push down. These are the things we normally don't get to talk about. And now we're getting the floor. We're getting the opportunity to say, these are the problems that we're dealing with as it comes to racism, institutionalized racism, microaggressions, and things of the like. But before we do that, I want to recap everything that happened in the first episode. Yes, for the first episode, we had Mark Richard Taylor. And if you want to know any more about it, just go to the first episode. I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want to share an update. Could you put up the video of Mark, please?
Make sure you please get some water if you can, family. Make sure you please get some water if you can. We'll get one walk in there. For those that was here at the start of the walk, we know this is where we started. Shout out to the sage burners out there.
That is Mark Richard Taylor at a Black Lives Matter protest in Orlando. That was Saturday, this past Saturday, so a week ago. And a lot of people have been sending me the pictures. They've been sending me the videos, and they've been like, you got to speak on it. You got to say something. And I was like, I don't want to. I want to let it sit by itself. But I think it would be kind of irresponsible if I didn't. So this is what I want to say. Change does not come easy. And sometimes, just like with acting, you got to go from the outside in. Sometimes you can go from the inside out. Everyone has their way of getting there. And sadly, we don't always know people's heart. We got to take them at their word. But this is one thing that I do know from my childhood. There's this story of these three children out in the backyard playing church. They're playing church. They're making fun of the things that they normally see in church, of people throwing their hands up and being Kojic and shouting and doing all that. And then their mom comes out and goes, y'all better stop. Y'all better stop. You better stop making fun of people. And you better stop, because when you open up those doors and the Holy Ghost arrives, you're not going to know what to do. And the kids go, whatever. And they keep playing. And then lo and behold, that Holy Ghost shoots up in that spine, and they are shouting, crying, giving all the praise. The mom comes out and she's ready to be like, why are you? And then she looks and she goes, there it is. There's the moment. And I'm going to actually echo that for Mark. I think exposure is one of the most important things. Sometimes you got to go through the motions, and it will be that one instance where someone will say something offhanded, or someone will give that speech that gets you to go, oh my God. So in regards to Mark doing everything that he's doing, I will say I do keep in touch with him. And it's interesting seeing the progression in the way he speaks. Mark lost a job last week. He lost a job. Ties were cut. And for a position that is volunteer based, he is still pushing. Even in a moment, like for me, when a job goes down, like I praise God, I've never been in a situation where like I've been fired from something. I'm still young. Life will happen. But I know for me, that seems like something I would pause my life for a little bit. And the fact that he's still moving forward, the fact that he even showed up, it says a lot. And it's something that I have so much respect for. So that's my thoughts on Mark. Now to today. The guest we have on the poster, it said Broadway, International, Regional. And I saw something incredible from the Broadway Advocacy Coalition. Their 3-day event that just took place was incredible. Do we have that? Do we have a part one of that? Broadway for Black Lives Matter again was incredible. I thought it was very bold what they were doing. I think that's a great example of the sirens. There's New York again. I think it's incredible to see how people are using their platforms. They pulled out the names. Those alarms are going off because Audra made an appearance yesterday. Felt like the world stopped. I could hear a collective ooh when she showed up. And I think that's the advocacy we need. I think everyone needs to come at this at different angles, which was also talked about on their thing. And it's great to see how they're going about it. I remember when I did the first episode of this, my whole thought was, what if someone with no Broadway clout, with no type of weight or anything like that, just got into the ring, just got in and used their voice and went for it? And on this second episode and seeing the response and seeing what's happening, it lets me know even more that if you can hear this and you are an ally or you are Black or you are anyone in between or connected and you feel an impulse to do something, do it. Now is the time to do it. And we can coordinate. I've been speaking to people from Black Lives Matter. I've been doing all that, but there are many roads. And there will be times where different companies will intertwine and then separate and do all that. This is a all hands on deck moment. And it is a beautiful moment. And I'm so grateful to be alive right now. Oh, look at me trying to pull that Hamilton out. But like, this is an incredible moment. And again, incredible because so many people are telling their stories. So for this installment, I decided to let Broadway stay at Broadway. I asked my Broadway friends, hey, I know I asked you to be a part of this, but can you sit this one out? Because I want to use this platform to talk about the people and introduce the people that we normally don't get to hear from. And those are the people that don't always have the success story at the end. These are the people still going through it. These are the people who, because of institutionalized racism, because of biases and things like that, their life took a turn or they have to work extra harder and they don't get the release that a lot of people who are at the perceived top get. So today is about getting into the field and going for it and understanding and really locking down that this isn't just a Broadway problem. This isn't just an institution problem. This is a problem bigger than all of that. And this is why we need all hands on deck. The vision for today was to have our current AEA president, Kate Schindel, and her opponent. It's weird because in what I'm learning with AEA is like, I don't think any of them see each other as actual opponents. Like I know for a fact that Bogey and Schindel communicate, they work together. And what I also know is that outside of whatever happens with the election, these people ain't going nowhere. Like these people are genuinely committed. They are committing a service. So I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping and then I'm going to introduce our guest. We did send an invite to our reigning Actors Equity Association president, asking her to come on for this episode specifically while people share their stories. I also asked Stephen Bogardus. I get so nervous when I say that name because I want to say the nickname. He has a really funny nickname, Bogey, which is just, it's infectious. It's really nice. So I always want to say that, but I'm like, no, start professional. So he's here. He was able to make it. And what both of them were supposed to do was come in, we'll say hello, and then just listen. As in pause the campaign, don't worry about anything else, but just listen. And unfortunately, Kate is dealing with a tragedy in her family. So of course she cannot be here. We did reach out for some type of response. Privately, we have not gotten a response. Publicly, on suggestion of a couple of her friends, we have gotten responses when like I would ask a question in one of her forums, or if I would bring her up when promoting the first event. So She's there. She's there. And what I do know is that Actors Equity is actually hosting a panel. Do we have the slide for that? This is the Racial Justice Town Hall, June 17th, 2020, 1 p.m. I will be there. And our reigning president and our executive, Mary McCall, will be there. All right. So now that we've done the housekeeping, again, trying to keep everything fair, I would like to introduce Stephen Bogardus. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Davon.
How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm
It's
happy
great.
to be here.
I just want to, again, thank you so much for being here. Like, for those of you who don't know, Stephen is running for president. Can I break this and just say Bogey from now to the end?
Sure.
Thank you. Bogey is currently running for AEA president. This weekend is probably one of the most important weekends because this is the last push before we go into the end of this bad boy. And what I can say is, again, I appreciate that you are pausing your campaign for this moment just to observe. That speaks volumes, and I truly appreciate it. All social media at Day Willing is open right now. So if we have any friends of Kate, or Kate, if you're watching and you'd like to be a part of this, it ain't too late. Just send me a message. We will get to you as soon as possible. So just to keep everything fair. Now that I do have you, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Oh no, is Stephen frozen? Maybe not.
Oh,
Here,
man.
can we pull him out, pull him back in? May I ask you a question?
Yes.
All righty. Now, I am aware that you saw the Michael Jordan documentary on ESPN. Is that correct?
No, I did not. No, I did not. I told you that it was on my bucket list to see.
All right. So it's on the
You were
bucket list.
watching it. I haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
So
So
now
when
I'm spoiling your question, aren't I?
no, it's great. I was expecting you to not get to it yet. That's pretty much what I'm setting up. So where is it on your bucket list?
It's high.
It's high. It's all
Yeah. Is it the number one thing? I got a couple of things I want to see, but it is up there. It is definitely up there.
This is what I get nervous about whenever I'm binging, and this is the question I want to ask. When you look at the fact that it's 9-hour-long episodes, I believe 9 or 10, do you believe that's too long or too short to talk about the legacy of Michael Jordan?
Well, I haven't viewed it, and you have, so you know whether it's worth it. I mean, look, the guy had an, just incredible career, right? And you want to know what the backstory is on that stuff. I mean, I don't, about his, growing up as a kid and how he became Michael Jordan and what he's done with his celebrity status and the kinds of things that he has done philanthropically and stuff like that. If that stuff is part of it, that to me is really interesting.
I have a second question for you. Will you be attending the town hall this coming week?
Next week? Absolutely.
And the last question, because again, we don't know each other. And again, I'm just floored. I have to know, when this was approached to you and I did reach out, what compelled you to say yes?
I am, hey, you know what? I'm a white guy, an older white guy who grew up with a lot of privilege in my life, and the inequities that exist between colors and races, I've been aware of my entire life. But I'm not a black person, and I don't have that firsthand story that your guests today are going to share. And I just think it's, if I'm going to be the president of this organization, or whether I just continue to be a counselor, it's just vitally important in this moment, in this time, right now, for me to have as much information as I can. And this is an opportunity for me to get smarter and to just keep trying to learn. I mean, approach everything with a beginner's mind.
I appreciate that. All right, so let's get into it. Are you ready to listen? Are you ready to hear? What is it? Slave play. They had this moment whenever you're ready to listen, just palms up. I will never forget that play. So that is Bogey. And I'm going to start. And this will be the only time in the creation of the receipts, and watch me walk that back 5 installments later. But this will be the only time where I will insert myself into the narrative. And hopefully this will be the only time. But I feel like I can't have people come on, be vulnerable, and not be willing to make the sacrifice myself. So let's get this party started. It is a celebration, a coming out. And this is the first time I've ever had a chance to talk about it. Last year, I had the absolute joy of leading a production of Oklahoma. It was challenging because it was new. In my opinion, it was more authentic to the time, with a lot of racial inclusion and things of the like, which is more true to the time period. Again, a racial culture does a lot, a lot of damage, but this was a moment where it felt like it was being done right. The show opened on July 20th of last year. July 21st was my birthday, and July 22nd, I was on a bicycle provided by the theater. As I was biking across the street, there was a Mack truck, and the driver, I'm pretty sure, was on his cell phone at the time, because I remember seeing a light. So that's alleged. But he turned, not paying attention, and came into contact with me while I was on the bike. And if it wasn't for the fact that I had gotten random stunt training, I would have been under that truck dead, completely under that truck dead. When I went to hit the brakes on the bike, I found out that the bike was faulty, and I couldn't stop. I had to take the impact. I had to crash into that truck, and I was rushed to the ER. And one thing I love about my Weston family in the company I worked for is that the actors and the team are so loving. As a community, there is so much there. And when you feel that, you feel like you want to keep a baton or keep the balloon in the air. So outside of the pain I was feeling and everything else, after that Equity Monday when I was hit, I made the choice to, in my room, figure out how to do the show without putting too much pressure on my leg, which was in pain, my back, which was in pain, my neck, and everything else that was in pain, and adjust. And I went on and finished the contract that very next day after the accident to August. And that was fine. I understand the idea of sacrifice. And for me, the pressure of being a lead in something, I really felt like we got to keep this ball in the air. But this is where it kind of hurts me the most, is it will almost be a year next month until that situation happened. And I've yet to get an apology about being supplied a faulty bike. What hurts the most is in making a sacrifice. I put my body on the line. So that we can keep the ball in the air, keep the tickets going, make sure nothing was canceled, and make sure that everyone had their moment. And what I keep thinking about is I had that accident happen to me, and I never got a direct conversation with the artistic director. I remember in a rehearsal randomly, a white girl, blonde hair, came into contact with a hat that hit her eye. And not only did she get to talk to the artistic director, but they had multiple conversations. There was so many things adjusted for, and she was ensemble. And I'll never forget how invisible I felt and how heartbroken I was, that even through that sacrifice, even after the contract was done, I had to go to a hospital here in New York, and they were like, you need to sit down. So ending the rest of my 2019, and of course we know how 2020 is going, but ending the rest of my 2019 and talking to Equity, who they weren't the best help. The liaison who I was supposed to go over that gave me a lot of pushback until I was able to talk to someone else who allowed me to get the workers' comp form signed and get everything documented. Because at the time, what I didn't realize is when I was asking to fill out the form and stuff, there was a little pushback and I didn't understand why. When I emailed later after the situation, what hurt me the most is that even then, when I directly emailed the artistic director, there still wasn't an apology. There was, oh, look, this is how we're going to make things better for moving forward. But there was never an acknowledgement. And it's almost about to be a year. And that level of disregard just floors me. And even now, when I deal with the insurance company, once they found out I was an actor, they literally started the strategy of pushing this can down, pushing this can down the hallway, because they know at some point as an actor, I will have to cave and I will have to accept whatever it is they give me. I also know that, oh my God, I also know that in essence, I'm a bit of a coward, because when I first wanted to speak out about it, I wasn't directly able to, because everyone said, well, this is one of the theaters that get you straight to Broadway. I know you just moved to New York, and this is the break. So if you just suck it up now, if you just suck it up and just keep it moving, you won't have to deal with any issues of not being cast again. You won't have to deal with anything else. And I feel so bad, because I feel like I sold out. I feel like I sold out. I feel like my silence said that this behavior was okay. And a year to this day, well, I guess today it ends, but like, I had surrendered my power. I had surrendered everything. And I feel like I endorsed an awful situation. So that's the guilt that I live with. That's why this is so personal to me. And that's why, again, I just want to thank you for listening. Hopefully a lot can come out of this. I want to take a shift and introduce our next guest. I'm going to pull up her intro. Allow me to read her bio. Lisi is a Los Angeles native who attended Los Angeles High School for the Arts before going to Berklee College of Music in Boston to major in voice. She originated the role Dina Jones in Dreamgirls when it first came to London's West End in 2016. She then played the iconic Whitney Houston in Broadway-bound musical Born for This. I saw it, I clocked it, she was fierce. The B.B. Winans musical before moving to New York at the end of 2018. She most recently played the mysterious and magical crocodile in the new Peter Pan-inspired musical Fly at La Jolla Playhouse. She released an EP in the Voice-Spheres titled Golden in 2016 and is currently working on new music in Los Angeles during the quarantine. Can we play Lisi 1? She is. She is. Hey, Lisi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Let me get into this hair. What is this hair doing? I love you. Are stunning. You're like, oh, I just came over. I want to show you something. Can we play? I'm sorry. Can we show the Shamar Moore? Shamar Moore says something in the griot that I thought was really interesting. I am proud to be Black, but I am also proud to be white. Lisi, I would love for you to share a little bit about your background, because I think what we don't hear a lot in this discussion on race and theater and things like that is where people are falling when it comes to being mixed race. I look at you and I think, like, where are you internally as you navigate through this external issue?
My dad is Norwegian and French, and my mom is Black and Native American, so I am biracial. And growing up in Los Angeles, both my parents are artists, so I grew up in a very liberal bubble and didn't really experience that much racism, per se. And I thought it was normal to have two different races for parents, and my parents called us golden instead of biracial or mulattoes or the other names that we have. So it was like a very beautiful community that I grew up in, and it wasn't until college that I realized that in the world I am a Black woman, I'm seen as a Black woman, and maybe fetishized a little bit because of my lighter skin and good hair and all of these different qualities that contribute to colorism, which is also a huge issue within the Black community. And started recognizing both my own privilege and also just how if you're Black, you're Black, you know what I mean? And I grew up very much surrounded by love by both sides of my family. That's why I really like that picture and that quote, because my white family is nothing but accepting and beautiful and loving and kind, and my Black family as well. And they both get along really well. There's never been any issues there. And that's kind of the craziest thing to me, living through all of this, is knowing that people just can't coexist that easily, and seeing the beauty that came from my parents' marriage and my life, and seeing just like the visceral hatred that there is out there in the world is quite alarming. And one of my best friends, Saleha Pfeiffer, who's also in a lot of shows, she's also biracial, but she's a lot lighter, has longer hair, wavier hair. People don't necessarily assume that she's Black. And we've had so many conversations these last few weeks about how we're feeling, because there is this divide in both wanting to speak up and do everything you can and advocate for the Black community and share our stories, but it's also like we have our own privileges that we have to recognize. And there is kind of this balance between dealing with like your white guilt and your Black trauma. And it's kind of like this internal battle of, things have kind of been working out for me in a lot of ways. There's been a lot of jobs that I haven't gotten because I'm Black, and I know that for a fact, but at least I'm in the room. I think that there's so many jobs that I get called in for, make it to the very end of for all these traditionally white roles, and then never get. And it kind of feels like they were filling their quota for seeing people of color. But when I look around the room, there's no Black girls. There's a lot of mixed girls. There's a lot of different ethnic variations and a ton of white girls. And then by the end, it gets wider and wider and wider. And it's usually like me and one other Black person, or me and one other person of color, and then like 4 white girls. And then it almost always goes to the white girl. And the times when it doesn't, it's historic and amazing. Or where we get cast as the standby or the understudy, So that, like, my last year in New York was a lot of dealing with that. But it is kind of understanding the privilege that I do hold in a lot of these spaces, and allowing space and wanting to amplify the voices that are less heard. But then also being like, I am Black and I do experience this shit. I do see this all the time, every day. And you just learn to live with it. And there is a level of acceptance that I feel guilty for. Just with when all this started getting really crazy, I was like, wait, but if we get too loud, then we'll get shoved even farther down. There's that feeling of, if we speak up too much and if we tell our stories and say how we're feeling, it's just going to get worse. And this is the first time that I feel like people are listening, and people are just like, let's just have the conversation. Let's have the honest conversations, person to person. Like, this is a fight for equality. This is not a fight saying like, we deserve this and we're better. Like, it's genuine. In the theater industry, it's whoever is best for the job should get the job. There should be no diversity quota. There should be no historical moment when a traditionally white role is cast as a person of color. So I'm just happy the conversation is happening. I said a lot there, but yeah.
I have one more question I actually have 2. I want to see if I can hit you with this one real quick. Do you ever feel like the fact that you're a mixed race is weaponized?
Sure. Can you elaborate on what you mean? Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me?
There we go. I think there was a bit of a freeze there. I'm sorry. Did you hear the question okay?
Yeah. Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Yeah. What I noticed to be a bit of a pattern, and again, I'm only speaking from another side. I'll notice that sometimes the word diversity is manipulated a little bit. So sometimes I know when I speak diversity, I speak equality, I speak equity. And sometimes I wonder if you've noticed that sometimes diversity is used more as a quota, as in like, look, we can get someone who's not too black, but we can get this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's not just Broadway, it's not just musical theater, it crosses over to everything. I've found that this is getting a little deep, but like a lot of in relationships, I find that white men are attracted to me much more so than darker skinned women because I'm like a palatable version of a black girl. You know, I'm well spoken, I'm well educated, I get along good with moms and dads, you know, so they want like the funk and the spice, but they don't want to go there, if you know what I mean. And I remember with a couple relationships that I've had with white men when a lot of these Black Lives Matter issues were first coming up in like 2014 to 2016, I would try to have conversations with them about it. And they're like, why are you so concerned? Like, you know, this doesn't really affect you. And I was like, well, you know that I am black and my family is from the South. So one of these hashtags could be my cousin next week. It could be my grandpa next week. Like, I don't know. So it does affect me. And I'm still terrified when we get pulled over because you're speeding and a cop comes up and I'm shaking and you're literally joking with him about how like, yeah, I mean, I just wanted to like test how fast I could go. And the cop's laughing with you. But I get pulled over for checking my phone at a red light and I get a ticket and I'm scared for my life. Like there's certain fears that people will just never understand until you live it and they'll never have to live it. So now I feel like this is just the time to listen and understand and change. Let's just shift. Like, and I feel it coming. I can feel it. It's in the air. It's exciting. It's beautiful. But it's a necessary shift that I think is far, far, far overdue. And I think that diversity is not like a hot trend. It's just what the world looks like. We're all different races and different mixtures, and we should all be represented equally.
Lacey LaFontaine, I understand that you are a busy woman and that you have to get into that studio. So I'm going to let you go so you can make some more beautiful music for us. Thank you, Lacey. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it.
All right. That was Lacey. Next, I want to move to someone that I think I always like brag about from afar. We worked together once, and since then I've always just been like, that Brandon. Let's talk about Brandon Burks. Better yet, let's just bring Brandon Burks in. Let's bring him in. Brandon, were you ever nominated for anything?
No, sir.
No, never. There are no Ovation nominations. There's nothing.
No, not one.
Okay, so he's being very humble. The Dreamgirls production that Brandon Burks was in was nominated for Best Ensemble. And when I tell you, in every ensemble, there's someone who's like, I'll put you on my back. I was not the best dancer. But when I tell you, Brandon said, we're going to do this 3 more times, let's go. And got me past that finish line. He really did. And what I can say is about Brandon Burks, as a performer and as a dancer, he's incredible. But his heart is what makes him a star. So with that being said, Brandon, how are you?
I'm good, Davon. How are you?
I'm good. I'm working my way through, finding my way through life, you know. Can we just jump right into this?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Can I get Brandon 1, please? All right. Brandon, you posted this yesterday, 2:25 p.m., and it's the first paragraph that gets me. I had a dream last night. It was my subconscious playing out a conversation I should have with 2 white men in my life. There was understanding, there were tears, and I was relieved. You could take it down. Brandon, can you walk us through that dream?
Yes. Just the words that are on that post are just very true. It truly was my subconscious taking me through a conversation that I've been kind of mulling over having or calling these people or sending an email or whatever. And it just is a conversation that is essentially, do you know how I was misused? And are you going to stop that from happening in the future? And I don't know if me living it out in a dream will relieve that pressure off of me, but I did wake up feeling better. But it's something where what Lisi was just talking about, it's like, if we make more noise, will we be shut out? You know, I feel like my career is finally at a place where people are accepting my gifts and talents when I walk into a room. And I don't want to feel like, because I was honest about, you know, me being disrespected, that I will then be seen as problematic, hard to work with, when that's really not true. It's just a matter of, this is what happened and this is how I was treated. And I want people to know that it's not only in the streets, it's also in our theaters, it's in our schools, it's in our, you know, all of our industries. And so, yeah, that dream was really just a moment where I was able to look these two men in the eye and say, you know, you did me wrong. And I don't know if I'll ever have that opportunity in person to do that.
Can I ask you, outside of the dream, what's the reality that put you there? If you're comfortable sharing, only what you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable talking about it because I can just like get in quickly. The easiest way to say it is, I was a part of a production that was, you know, nominated for 10 Ovation Awards in Los Angeles, and the show won Best Choreography. And the choreographer choreographed the whole show in Nikes and looked to my feet to help him put together an entire production that I was involved, like the numbers that I was involved in. And as the lead in Singing in the Rain, the two men tap a lot. So it just, to me, was a bummer that I was not ever given the respect to even privately be thanked for helping someone facilitate an Ovation award-winning show. To me, that's just beyond disrespectful, and it's something that reminded me that my Black talent, my Black body, is not of value. It's something that's a temporary fix. It's something that is a quick burn and turn, and then they move on to the next thing, and they're not even thinking, how did I affect this person while I was with them? So that's the short of it.
Is it safe to say that you're dealing with this idea that your Black intellectual property was hijacked?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what's interesting? One of my friends who came to the show, they said after the show, I could tell that a Black person had something to do with that choreography because the sounds that were made were so in the pocket and rhythmic in a way that Black culture really understands and highlights when they you know, do anything percussive or with music. And so that was amazing to know that they were able to hear that. But I absolutely feel like it was a hijack operation.
Did you say anything?
I didn't, because, you know, the choreographer, he's a Broadway guy, and he, you know, went on about his business, didn't even think about it. So it wasn't something that I felt like I was even allowed to talk about at the time, but definitely it was something that all of the cast knew, and all of my friends knew what was happening. Everyone knew.
Can we talk about silence for a second? And the idea that you didn't say anything, people knew what was going on. Did you understand, was there solidarity there? Or did you feel as though their silence was, in a way, advocating?
I feel like there was as much solidarity as there could be because of the climate that was created in the room. It was something where it was stressful on a lot of people, but I feel like I had to carry the weight of a lot of that stress because I became the punching bag because I could take it. And the other Black people in my cast would just come up to me and just like hold my arm or grab my leg because they knew. Like it was something where it's like, this is the first time I'm really getting celebrated for my talents as a lead, and I'm getting kind of drugged through the whole process. So it wasn't something that was exciting or liberating, or it didn't feel like an arrival. It felt like I was being punished for the things that are rightfully mine. And so, you know, the cast knew, yes, this is what's happening, but like they couldn't say anything.
If there was one thing you would have wanted the most, what would it have been?
To be treated like a person that mattered, you know, even if it was not something where they came up to me and said, you know, thank God for your feet, or else this would not be so successful. Even if it was something where they looked at me and they were like, thank you. And it was this acknowledgement of, I appreciate you for being here in this space and giving what you give in a role that, as Lacey said, it shouldn't be historic, but it is still, in people's eyes, a gobsmacking idea to have a Black person play Cosmo Brown. And so I think if I would have just been treated like I mattered, so much emotional baggage that I still now carry with that show would have been eradicated.
I want to make a hard left. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to play Brandon too. This is a video. I just want to play this really quick. This is you with our Black Glinda, Brittany Johnson.
I was helping him with monologues. He was trying to get into a performing arts high school. And he was like, did you hear that there's a Black Glinda now? And I was just like, that's my friend. So it really has been so cool how I really feel like it's this cool ripple through Broadway, because I feel like, listen, you know, when us chocolate people, when we have our wins, we run, honey. We run home with those things. It really did give.
Brandon, here's the question. With everything that's happening right now, have you recently seen any wins that make you want to go running like that?
Honestly, no. I feel like I'm starting to see more things in film that are very exciting, but in terms of stage, because that's kind of like our bread and butter in our home, I feel like Britney is the last thing that really kind of gave me hope. But everything else is kind of still this diversity card. And so in terms of like how I said chocolate wins, I don't think we've had a chocolate win like that in a while. And we need one. We're due.
We are overdue. That was from The Beat Change. That's Brandon's show that I I have binged a lot of it, and I am in awe. I don't think I ever give you your roses, because at the time I was very much, for people who don't know me, that's pretty much all of you. I like to keep to myself. I like to keep quiet, and I'm a very introverted person. So a lot of exposure, after a while, I'll clam up, I'll disappear. So I just never got to say that. I just think you are beyond talented. I think you are so great and humble. And like I said earlier, your heart, you just don't expect it, because you're beautiful. You got the symmetry, you got everything else. And you have the nerve to come at us with a heart. How dare you? Get off. Thank you, Brandon.
I love you.
I love you. All right, Bogey, we're flying through these bad boys. The next person we have is a dear, wonderful person in LA who everyone refers to as Mama, from what I'm gathering. She is Mother. Her name is Bené Boyd. She has been seen in Big Little Lies. She has been seen in Law and Order. She's seen internationally. I can just pick anything off this list and it's there. She's a dominant force in the LA theater scene. She dominates on our TVs with this commercial. Can we play it?
I still had depression symptoms. It was tough getting through the day, hiding how I really felt. Something had to change. So I talked to my doctor for real. No more saying, oh, I'm fine. This time I spoke up about living behind the mask. And
hey, Bené, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
I want to ask. You say something really interesting in this commercial where it's taking off the mask. It's taking off everything else, and I listen to that and I go, "Gosh, what a heavy commercial when you really listen to it." And I want to know, like, what are you dealing with behind your mask?
Oh, Lord. It's very interesting you say that because as I was watching it, I was like, I've been living behind a mask for a really long time. And even during the audition process for that commercial, they asked some really pertinent questions about, when do you put on your mask? When do you not put, do you take off your mask? And a lot of it had to do with my family. You know what I mean? Like, I do put on a mask when I'm with my family because I don't want my family to know when, I'm sad. I have 2 kids. I don't want them to know things. And then I started to think even more about it. And I was like, wow, I wear a mask a lot. A lot. I wear a mask a lot. As everybody calls me mama, I try to take care of everybody. I want everybody to feel equal. I want everybody to feel heard. I want everybody to feel validated. And I never really open it up for anybody to ask if I'm okay. So then I take off that mask when I get home. You know what I mean? And it's usually in the confines of my bedroom where nobody's around, where I can actually take off the mask. And it's just been really interesting.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm fine.
No, I mean, just in general, when you take off that mask, if you don't mind sharing, what are some of the complexities in just balancing a career that tend to be ever present?
Well, there's so many complexities. I don't even know if we have enough time to touch on them. So let me just shorten it down. Am I okay? That's the question you asked. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm a strong woman. I am okay. Do I have hard times? Do I have struggles? Absolutely. Do I have issues? Absolutely. But I don't ever like to say that I'm not okay.
Why?
Because I think for me, with the upbringing and the situations that I've been through throughout my life, I think that if I were to sit here and say I wasn't okay anymore, I would necessarily break down. And my life is always about pushing forward and doing whatever I can humanly possible to break through barriers, to overcome things, to overcome struggles, to just keep pushing forward. I don't allow anything anymore to attach itself to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Benet gave me permission to say this earlier when I was just learning more about her and like doing the research and everything. What I find so impressive is not only do you balance the weight that becomes a reoccurring theme of do we speak out, do we not speak out on top of that, but you balance that through a disability. And I'm very interested to know how that impacts your life and how do you balance?
It impacts my life. It impacts my life sometimes a lot more than others. Unfortunately, when people do hear about this disability, they think that I don't work or I can't work or excuses are made for me not to be hired. It's kind of a battle where you do have a disability, but do you tell people? Do you not tell people? Do you disclose this information because you may not get hired because of the stereotypical knowledge of this disease? And so it's an internal struggle that I have all the time, where I do have that struggle of, being of mixed race. Yes, you're in the room. You might get the job. You may not get the job. Most of the time I don't. Most of the time I'm the hashtag equity ethnic, I call it, where we are dark enough to differentiate between all the rest of my white cast. So we reached our quota. And you're usually playing, very minimal roles, but it's like I do have that internal battle also as an African American woman, even though most people are like, I don't know what to do with you. I have no clue where you stand. And I'm like, why does it even matter where I stand? Why does it even matter? But when it comes to the disability, it's just another added stress. It's another added weight.
Was there a clear moment when your disability like came into play or someone used that against you?
Yes, there was. There absolutely was. I was being discussed for a role in a musical at a theater here in LA. And my agent had reached out to me and said, are you interested in doing this role? And I said, sure, why not? I'm all about breaking barriers, opening doors. Let's do some stuff. Let's make some change. And apparently they were told by the casting director that she's not available because she has a disability and she's taking care of herself. And my agent called me back and said, this is what's going on. And I said, the sheer shock and the sheer sucker punch that I felt was like, are you kidding me? First off, at that point, it wasn't, public knowledge that I had this disability. And secondly, how dare you discredit me and take me out of the running just because of what you know of the disability, not necessarily what is actually true of the disability and how different people act different ways and have different symptoms. And it was just like, this is disgusting. This is absolutely disgusting. I cried for days. And my agent, I love him to death because he stood up for me. He was like, first off, that's not any of their knowledge. That's not for public knowledge. Secondly, how dare you discredit her because of something that she happened to have land in her lap. And thirdly, she told me this information as we were sitting at Chuck E. Cheese with our children. So I think she would have been able to tell me if she would not have been able to do the role. So you just literally, A, expressed my medical knowledge to a director defaming my character, and B, what was your sole purpose to do such? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Like, just the discrimination, I don't even know. There's so many words, and I'm trying to stay peaceful and composure, and it's just really hurtful because being an actor of color already comes with its struggles, and we have to have a thick skin. And then being an actor of color with a disability, you have to have even more thick skin. And you have to know, and you have to accept that you're not going to get jobs. You have to accept that, things are going to be not given to you because of the liability of it all. And it's like, I need people to understand that just because I have a disability doesn't mean that I'm going to ever not give you my best. Because when my disability does explode, and when I do have flares, and when I do have relapses, it affects me. It doesn't affect anybody else. It affects me. So I do whatever humanly possible holistically to make sure that I'm okay. Like, yes, your production will be fine. There are many times where I have had relapses or flares, and the show goes on, and nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what happens because I'm a professional, and I will always stay a professional. And pardon my French, I'm a badass bitch. So I will always make sure you don't know that I am struggling. You will never know that I'm struggling. Nobody ever knows that I'm struggling. That's why people call me mama. Because what are we? We're a beacon of hope. Mamas don't let you know when they're struggling. They don't. And I will never let you know. Because in instances like this, it gets put against me. And it's literally like, okay, wait a minute. You're literally going to take me out because of something that I have complete control over. You're literally going to disregard me because of something that I have complete control over, and that I take very seriously, and that I do all the holistic things that I need to do. And I make sure that I, am on the proper medications or doing the proper vitamins that I need to do, because ultimately the only person that's really truly affected by this is me, because it affects my body. So it was definitely a sucker punch and a reality check for me.
Can I play a video for you and then just get a simple yes or no?
Okay.
Can we play my favorite, my dear friend, Marianne Williamson?
What makes you qualified to determine how much is owed in reparations?
Well, first of all, it's not $500 billion in financial assistance. It's $500 billion, $200 to $500 billion payment of a debt that is owed. That is what reparations is. We need some deep truth-telling when it comes. We don't need another commission to look at evidence. I appreciate what Congressman O'Rourke has said. It is time for us to simply realize that this country will not heal. All that a country is a collection of people. People heal when there's some deep truth-telling. We need to recognize that when it comes to the economic gap between blacks and whites in America, it does come from a great injustice that has never been dealt with. That great injustice has had to do with the fact that there was 250 years of slavery, followed by another 100 years of domestic terrorism. What makes me qualified to say $200 to $500 billion? I'll tell you what makes me qualified. If you did the math of the 40 acres and a mule, given that there was 4 to 5 million slaves at the end of the Civil War, there were 4 to 5, and they were all promised 40 acres and a mule for every family of 4. If you did the math today, it would be trillions of dollars. And I believe that anything less than $100 billion is an insult. And I believe.
I'm going to just straight up ask you. In the theater world, are black theater actors owed reparations?
Yes.
That's all I need to know. Thank you, Benet. Love you, Benet.
Love you too.
All right, Bogey. We have a couple. Deeply in love. Allow me to introduce you to them. John Devereaux has been on regional and international stages and tours of Rent, Dreamgirls, and is currently, well, not so currently, a part of the Angelica tour of Hamilton. Devon is an actor, singer, dancer. That's Devon J. Hall, by the way. Dancer who has been performing professionally for about 6 years. He has toured with the 20th anniversary tour of Rent in 2017 and has worked at various regional theaters. He is unapologetically black, and his hair is the crown he will never take off. Now, I'm going to play these videos and just prepare you for the hair, the hair designs that are about to come out. Could I get Devon 1 and John 1?
I thought I knew you, princess, but I never understood. I don't know you. I don't know you. We're caroling through the night. We'll be a very special Christmas for me.
I will be stealing all those vocal choices. Hey, Devon. Hey, John.
Feel free. Feel free.
This is what I find very interesting. On both of your Facebooks, you both decided to speak out. And not only did you speak out, but you gave a full long, detailed description for both of you. I guess the general question I want to ask first is, why did you speak up?
It was my responsibility. At the time that all of this happened, it was 7 months ago, which is insane. But I think that I was at the point now where if I can share it publicly with other people, then I would get peace from it. And I think that I found peace with being able to be open and vulnerable.
I think I spoke up because, like many of the interviews, many of the stories we've heard today, we didn't speak up the first time. And there's like a sense of guilt, but I'm turning whatever guilt I felt then into action now. Because now is the time for us to, to make that right in a way, to have our voices heard.
I want to look at Devon's. Can we pick up Devon too? Devon, in your message, you said something very interesting. You said, "But of course, we need the job." That resonated with me so much. We don't want to come across as the problem. We don't want to tarnish our names and not work again. We don't want to be the angry Black person. Can we pull that? Devon, one thing I've noticed in the retelling of so many stories and even here today is that quote, "We need the job. We don't want to be the angry Black person." Can you speak more on that?
Yeah, of course. I think that in this time that we have been in prior to where we're at now, we as actors, specifically Black actors, always have felt that the job is such a high stake, and if we lose the job, we'll be tarnished, and our careers will be tarnished. Our agent or manager will be upset. We'll walk into the next casting room and feel like, do they know? And I think that that's a problem. That is a problem because we hear so many times every actor is replaceable. And I think that that's completely invalid. And I think that as a Black actor, I should be able to voice my opinion. If a director can voice their opinion about my performance, I should be able to voice my opinion about how you treat me as your actor.
I want to say something that I found very interesting. Not only did you post that, but you spoke to the person after writing it. How did that go?
I was shaking when I reached out to that specific director. Just to give a little bit of a backstory, I was doing a production of Aida, which, if you don't know, that show consists of predominantly Black actors who play slaves. And I was playing Merib, who is a servant to Radames. And so our director was white, and that's not an issue. But what took place was the issue. And to sum it up, what took place was we were in a rehearsal, and we had just gotten back from being on break. And the house is a pretty large house. And so me and a couple of the ensemble members were in the back of the house, and we were conversing. And our director was in the front of the house getting ready to resume rehearsal. And while we were conversing, the director had said, "Quiet in the house." And then we did not hear her. And she then proceeded to come to the back of the house. And as she's walking toward us, she says, in a joking way, "Be quiet, you monkeys." Now, everyone in that circle that I was conversing with was Black. So to hear our white director speak to us and use that type of language, which we all know is a racial slur, is just extremely absurd and uncalled for. And to answer your question, once I posted that post on Facebook, I was being hit with expose that person, tag that person, put that theater out there. And I said, I could do that. And that would be a whole different other conversation and a whole different other situation. But then I started thinking, I am a strong Black man, and it affected me, and I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for the other castmates that were with me and experienced that with me, but I can speak for how that made me feel. And how it made me feel was I should speak up and let that be known. So here we are.
I'm gonna cut in really quick. I'm gonna apologize for any technical difficulties that anyone's getting right now. We have a lot of country to cover. Everyone's calling from all over. Devin and John right now are in Texas, Houston, Texas, and everyone's internet is not equal, and that's what we're fighting for: equal equity in internet. John, I want to switch over to you really quick.
Sure.
What I found interesting in your statement, can we get John too? Thank you. It was the very first part. I was almost tricked into a show that would have had me rapping a song called I Hate Immigrants in front of a high school audience that was 99% children of color. Can we play Jane Elliott?
You've been doing this a long time. So what do you think we need to do?
We need to stop believing the myth. In this country, what we call education is actually indoctrination. And it takes us from the ages of 5 to the age of 18 to thoroughly indoctrinate people so that they will believe in the myth of white superiority. And it is a myth.
Right.
Now, you can't do that while you're teaching that Columbus discovered America.
Now, we have a situation where you would have gone into high schools, and a lot of theaters have theater departments, theater education departments and things of the like. They have teaching artists, they have touring shows, and you would have gone in and said, I hate immigrants, and would have pretty much put that information out there along with the Shakespeare they're getting, the Arthur Miller, the Tennessee Williams. What made you, because this wasn't the first time you spoke out about it, what made you, one, say, no, I'm good, and two, say something?
Okay. Saying the no, I'm good on it was strictly from a place of responsibility as an artist. And we have a responsibility to the youth. We have a responsibility to future generations of what our art does to them or for them. Does it inspire them? Does it make them happy? Does it bring them joy? Does it make them want to do what I do? So there's responsibility there. And I said, I didn't want to do this because you could have done this amazing show the concept behind the show was basically a telling of stories about what immigration policies are in America and the climate of that brings. The only thing those kids would have remembered, the 99% POC population of students watching that show, was a Black man saying and singing the song, I hate immigrants. And that's not the message I want to get out. And I sent an email to the people in charge that, look, I can't do this in good faith. I can't do this with clear conscience. And I hope that you don't do it with clear conscience. Because there's no way you can do what you want to do, but I'm not going to be a part of it. And the reason I said no more the first time, so this happened about a year ago. I had the receipts, put it all out there for the sake of not calling people out, but for the sake of accountability. For the sake that other people need to know that y'all are doing this.
Did anything happen? Did anything change? Like when you emailed them, let them know the situation, was your voice taken?
The the next email I got after sending that out, I also sent it to my would-be castmates. Like, I just sent out that. The next email I got was, "I'm sorry you feel that way. I, as a second-generation American and a woman, understand that racism isn't just on Caucasian people. Prejudices are in everyone. And that's why we took that route."
Now, my understanding is that the first time you put up this status, which was years ago, you were asked to take it down?
Yes. I was asked to take it down by multiple people, by the people who were in charge of the show, music director in the show. But I received a call from the president of the association, of the Foundation for New American Musicals, Michael Donovan. And he called me personally. And this is the man who, before then, cast me in my very first show in LA, cast me in a world premiere musical. This is a man that I respected. This is a man that I look up to. Like, I feel like me and Michael are on the same page. And he just asked me to take it down. And he said, from what I remember, he said that he basically gets it because he casts Black shows, or because he casts Black people, or as a gay man, he understands. And at that point, I had been talking about that issue for, I think, about 3 days. I don't know if it was because of the respect I had for him, the exhaustion I felt after 3 days of fighting about it, or just, it was like, okay, or the fear of not being cast again in any of the shows, or that word getting out. I was like, okay, sure, people saw it, it's up there, it's been 2 days, okay, I'll take it down. And I'm bringing it up again because I was silent. I should not have taken it down. I should not have said, okay. I should not have said, until there was a clear understanding of what I was feeling. And in that whole situation, no one asked me, why do you feel this way? No one came to me and wanted to figure things out. It was just like, this looks bad on us. Can you take it down? This looks bad on me. Can you take it down? There was no conversation about my feelings toward it or the responsibility that they had in putting up something like this in front of high schoolers.
Yeah.
And
indoctrination. I have a question. I just want to shift a little bit, because we find these situations a lot where we have two actors who are in love, who are together. They are a couple, just like you are. And there's something that kind of scares me with what's coming in the future. And I would love for you all to speak to this. I think all of us understand that when things start back up, we're not going to be dealing with as much work as there was before COVID quarantined all of us and shut a lot of things down. That's just a given. That's normal. But there's something that scares me a little bit more about that. Like right now, all of us are unified. And if you can you play the rat slide? This is a really interesting thing that's happening in New York. Starving, angry, and cannibalistic, America's rats are getting desperate amid coronavirus pandemic. Now, when we start back up, it's going to be Broadway versus community versus regional versus all of us. And in a place where we're already a little marginalized and we don't get as much work already, how do we keep this unity that we have right now in fighting this situation when money comes into play, when opportunity and publicity and the things that kind of energize our career come into play?
As individuals, I feel like we have to create our own works. Like we've been hearing this from the jump. We have to create things that will facilitate, that are for us. Things that will generate opportunities for us. And I feel like out of this, there should be a segment, not a segment of space, but there should just be space for us to create. There should be opportunities for that to happen. So when money does come into play, investing in shows that are created for people where those opportunities are present. And it starts from all the way from the artistic level to the donors, to the producers, to the actors, to the crew. We all have to have this responsibility to create the opportunities, to invest in the creation of opportunities.
All right, guys. I want to thank you. I love seeing your faces. I love the hair. I love everything you're doing. Be safe in Texas, please.
Yeah.
We will. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen, for listening.
Thank you, Stephen.
All right, Bogey. We're about to shift for a second. I am about to bring out, I'm going to switch up the order. Sorry, ladies. I'm going to bring out Tamika White. And can we play Tamika 1?
People always want to make you feel bad for everything. How you dress, where you're from, where you work. Take me, I'm a porn star. Retired, I got to be a star. I got to play a character, build a...
Hey, Tamika.
Hey.
This is what I love in researching you, was that nobody gonna stop you. Like, you will find any avenue to get through, and it is so clear on your timelines and your digital presence. Like, it is inspiring to get to know you. How are you today?
I'm fantastic.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Tamika.
Here's something that I want to share, and this is what kind of got my attention. Can we play Tamika 2?
Let me try to be as calm as I can, because I'm hurt. And this is not petty, and this is not shade, and this is not drama, and this is not no shit to stir. I'm going to keep it 100. But in this fight for our lives, I question Black people, Black theater makers. What does it have to take? What does it do when you say we gotta work together? What we gotta do? What I gotta do? I gotta be on Broadway? I gotta have a Tony behind my name? I gotta know some people that know some people that know some people? I love that you got together in the 300 strong in the name of the late August Wilson and the ground in which we stand.
How do we not leave people behind?
We can't really afford to, but it is starting with this, what you're doing. It's the boldness and the fearlessness and the courage to just step out in whatever emotional state. And yes, you might come off as being an angry Black person, but if you are coming off as that, which is might not even be of 400 years of a land. So if that is the case, then somehow or another we raised with the idea and the mantras and the slogan of each one reach one. It takes an entire village. All these other slogans and messages I know I grew up with. If we really mean that, then we need to not only talk about it, but we have to be about it, because it is power in numbers. It is about the collective, and regardless of however I am in my career or whatever it takes. It is just like my sister Benet just said, she's mama, well, I'm auntie. And I am that bitch. So, and because I'm a little older and I celebrate that, but yeah, I keep on keeping on because I don't know anything else but to be a creative professional. I don't want to do anything else but to be a creative professional. So yes, the reality is we have to pull this together. So if it segues, it's just like what you just played at the the clip beautifully with Marianne Williamson. That's where the power to me really lies. And yes, first and foremost, I am an actor. I am a performer. But I am also been blessed with the opportunity to know what it is to run a theater, to be a producer, to know what it is to have something of my own. And if that is what my beautiful brothers down in Houston, Texas, shout out to H-Town, you know what it is. There is, yeah, we have to facilitate, and I think to me that's a part of the part of the conversation of bringing everybody together. It is how, since we are keepers of the culture, we are protectors of our works. Then there have to be facilities in order to these conversations and all these microaggressions and these racial discriminative acts that we have all experienced. It's a different type of conversation when you in my house as opposed to being a guest in somebody else's house.
I don't have anything else to say. I just want you to clarify that video, and I want everyone to go to Tamika's page and just listen. It's a call to action. And your video was the reason I was like, okay, Broadway, take a break today. Take a break today, because we just got to make sure that everyone's being heard. Because again, with so many people coming in, what we're hearing is that we are all experiencing the same thing down the line. Tamika, thank you for your words, and I hope that they are taken into account in what I'm calling the slate wars. That's what I'm calling the upcoming audition cycle.
Please.
The slate wars. So thank you. Have a good one, all right?
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Our last person today is Constance Jewel Lopez. Can we play Constance 1?
You're gonna love me.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you.
All right, everyone out. We lost Steven. I think he's going to try and find his way back, but everything's taped. He can come back.
Thank you,
Constance.
Stephen, for even being part of this. And Davon, thank you for holding this for us.
What I love about that video is the call and response with the audience. I know the voices too, so it's just so funny just hearing that. Here's what I find very interesting. You're located in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is very contentious for the 99-seat theater. However, you did a 99-seat theater contract, and I think the production was The Color Purple, won lots of awards, blew it up. And when I was learning about Los Angeles and the there's Bogey.
My apologies.
Thank you for being here,
It's all
Bogey.
good. We're talking. Well, Constance is currently located in Los Angeles, and we're talking about the 99-seat theater. So with the 99-seat theater, I could not wrap my head around why that exists. I couldn't figure it out. And then I met you, and then I learned about The Color Purple, and I think you are the best person to answer this question. Why, especially during that contentious vote, why were you, among others, in favor of that 99-seat theater contract?
There are a few reasons why I was in favor. It's because we would be able to be on a stage where we weren't being cast in other places. I was already a union member, and there are only really like 6, maybe 7 real union houses in LA, in LA proper, LA County-ish, whatever. And so the problem is that, of course, we all know that theater is heavily male. It's like when you have ensemble, they're mostly male dancers, that kind of thing. And then because I'm a bigger Black woman, and I have the big kind of voice, not kind of, the big voice, that there's only a few parts for me. There was once, I remember when somebody was doing a production of Seussical, the musical. And the person who was the musical director, he wanted to cast one of his students as the part of Sour Kangaroo. Now I'm going in there and I'm like, singing my head off, you know what I mean? For Sour Kangaroo. And she got cast, of course, you know, because when you are in a production where there's contracts, so many contracts, I'm not competing against my part. I'm competing against all the other contracts. So I really wasn't competing or auditioning against this girl who they wanted to cast, you know, and she was phenomenal. She was great. I'm competing against all the other contracts. And so when you look at all the contracts that were given out, they were all people who weren't, nobody of color got a contract in Susan. And so, you know, and so it's that kind of thing where I can do this great production of The Color Purple and and be seen in LA. And not only that, just share my gifts with the world. When I maybe wouldn't get cast, because if they cast that in LA, they're gonna audition everybody and bring them from New York. Also, a lot of people who couldn't afford to go to university for theater, especially people of color, they get their acting chops on those little stages. That is how they really are taught how to act, because they couldn't afford to get the degree. They couldn't afford all the student loans that came with it. They couldn't afford to take time away from their families and not work and learn, you know, and be taught how to do true theater at the same time. So that's why it was so important to do that.
Constance?
Yes.
May I sneak in really quick, only because time's pressing? I want to
go ahead.
Throw a picture out for you, because I know you were in a production of this. Can we get Porgy and Bess? Who is that?
Cab Calloway, baby.
Can I share a quick little story about this picture?
Yes.
All right. So here's the background for Porgy and Bess in that picture. Russia during the Cold War goes, you know what's so interesting about America? Look at how they treat their minorities. They're racist. They're awful people. America comes back and goes, oh yeah, well, we got something for you. And it is diplomacy. And they launch a tour of Porgy and Bess starring Cab Calloway as their answer to if they are racist or if they are not. And what I always find interesting about that little fact is that something rooted in our culture was flipped into propaganda. And I know that you did Porgy and Bess. And my question is, when you do productions like that, and I know that the director was white, what are your thoughts when it comes to cultural appropriation?
Oh my gosh, I have so many thoughts. But the main thing is that they didn't, when they culturally appropriate, like directing this all Black cast, oftentimes, as a matter of fact, every time I've dealt with the situation, except for The Color Purple, which was brilliant, and he had his ear to the ground and listening to every moment, everything we said. In Porgy and Bess, he didn't research a lot of things. So, and we as Black people know these things, and we were ignored. So it kind of almost became farcical at some point, to where one of the actors right before we went on said, okay, even though this production is crazy and we've gone through all this stuff, we are Black people. We're going to go out here and we're going to perform and we're going to be perfect and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And the show is going to be great because of us. And that's the thing. When shows fall apart, they blame it on us. But when we as Black people piece it all together and make it happen, they get all the accolades and all the credit for, you know, wrangling these Black people together to make this perfect production that they didn't even research for. And that, in a nutshell, is what it is.
Thank you, Constance. I'm not going to push you anymore on that. I love you. I love seeing your face. Thank you for being here.
And thank you for this. We need this.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bogey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
you for just listening. Truly. I don't know which way everything's going to go election-wise. And like I said earlier, no matter how it goes, I know you ain't going nowhere. I know I do not question your commitment. So moving forward, if you do win or if you don't, I would love to have you back as a guest to actually just talk and hopefully move things along. And I'm about to explain why. After this show, again, Bogey, thank you for being here. I am suspending the way that we do the receipts from here on out. After the first episode, I decided to reach out to a bunch of producers, a bunch of things, and listening to so many panels and so many forums that are happening. I think Kate Lumpkin had a great panel today just about trans lives, Black trans lives. What I'm learning is that it's a top down issue, and all hands have to be on deck. And like I was saying earlier, we connect sometimes, we won't connect sometimes. But as far as this show is going, the new mission of the receipts is to work with everyone possible to create a bill. I think at this point, we need a new contract. We need a Black Theater Actors Matter slash actors, Black Theater Matters contract slash bill. That is just a new agreement of how we can fix these things. And I encourage everyone to kick it off and start the races. The first one to get this bill passed wins. And I think we need to talk with all our unions. We need to talk with everyone. We need to make sure that there's more people like Bogey listening. And next week, some people who have stepped up to the plate, and we are starting in Los Angeles and working our way to New York. We have TJ Dawson of 3D Theatricals, Tom McCoy of McCoy Rigby. We have Paul Garman of Musical Theater West. We have Stephen Glaudini. Oh my God, I'm scared. I hope I said that name right. Producing artistic director at Moonlight Amphitheater. We have Glenn Casal. I think that's right. Former artistic director and current artistic consultant for Sacramento Music Circus. And we have Gary Grossman, producing artistic director, Skylight Theater Company. We are coming together to start working on a bill to solve this issue. And I'm hoping what everyone's doing, Equity, this coming week when they talk, a bunch of people who are holding their forums, the Broadway Coalition, Advocacy Coalition, I'm hoping that all of us are working in parallel directions to get this thing done. And I salute everyone who is speaking out and doing everything. Thank you to the guests. Thank you again, Bogey. You have blown my mind. You have blown my mind. And I want to say, guys, just like the big protest says, what do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. Thank you so much. This is episode 2.